Hello everyone. Thank you all for watching the video and leaving meaningful comments. Wishing everyone good health and happiness. In the morning, gentle sunlight filtered through the forest foliage as I carried my little child on my back and began another familiar workday. The path leading into the forest was filled with the chirping of birds, blending with the fresh mountain air. I brought along a large basket to pick ripe papayas. The tall papaya trees, their golden fruits hanging abundantly from the branches, required all my effort to reach and pluck each one. Every time I managed to pick a fruit, I felt a sense of relief, knowing that these sweet fruits would provide a little extra income for me and my child. After finishing the harvest, the basket was full and heavy. I carefully carried it down to a nearby household to ask for help weighing the fruits. Before weighing them, I gifted them a ripe papaya as a token of gratitude for their kind assistance. The locals here are very friendly and often support me in my daily work. Once all the papayas were weighed, I quickly brought them to the roadside to display for sale. At the roadside, I spread out a small cloth and placed the papayas on top. The ripe golden fruits looked very appealing under the morning sunlight. I adjusted each fruit neatly to attract passers-by. Not long after, people started noticing me and my child. They stopped by to buy a few papayas, asked about my situation, and encouraged me to keep striving in life. Some even complimented how beautiful and sweet my papayas were, which made me feel proud of the effort I had put in. The sales went more smoothly than I had expected. Each time I sold a papaya, my heart filled with joy. By noon, all the papayas had been sold out. I packed up my belongings, feeling relieved knowing that today I had earned some money to care for my little one. On the way home, I thought about the tasks ahead to prepare for tomorrow. My steps on the path back to our shelter felt lighter than ever. The joy from selling all the papayas this morning made me realize that life still holds many things worth cherishing and hoping for. In my heart, I silently thanked those who had bought from me, not only for providing income but also for giving me motivation to overcome difficulties with my child. After a hard-working morning, I returned to the small hut by the stream. This hut, a temporary shelter for my child and me, was built from a few wooden planks and a simple thatched roof. The sound of the stream gently flowing over large rocks created a peaceful atmosphere, helping me relax after hours of labor. Once back at the hut, I placed my child on the small bed and started a fire to prepare lunch. I took out a packet of instant noodles and boiled water over the wood stove. The smoke from the fire blended into the fresh mountain air, carrying with it the distinctive scent of burning wood. When the water boiled, I added the noodles to the pot and seasoned them for extra flavor. Just a few minutes later, a steaming bowl of noodles was ready. I sat down next to my child and began enjoying this simple lunch, enough to ease my hunger after a non-stop morning of work. The warmth of the noodles spread through my body, helping me regain energy. While eating, I watched my child playing with a few small toys I had made by hand. Their innocent eyes and pure smile reminded me that life, despite its hardships, is still so precious. After finishing my meal, I nursed my child. Watching them feed peacefully in my arms filled me with both love and responsibility. I silently vowed to be stronger and more determined to give my child a better life. The challenges ahead could not deter me because my love for my child is the greatest motivation to keep striving every day. When my child was full and began to drift off to sleep, I gently laid them down on the bed and sat beside them, softly singing lullabies. My voice blended with the sound of wind rustling through the forest trees, creating a natural melody that was soothing and calm. My child slept soundly in my arms, their small face radiating an extraordinary sense of peace. Afterward, I lay down next to my child to rest for the afternoon. A sense of tranquility spread through me as I listened to the steady flow of the stream and the distant chirping of birds. Though life remains full of challenges, moments of peace like this make me feel grateful for having a place where my child and I can lean on each other and face life's trials together. Under the gentle midday sunlight, I took a short nap to regain energy after a hard-working morning. Though the rest was brief, it was enough to make me feel less tired. As the clock struck early afternoon, I resumed my usual work. Tightening the baby carrier on my back, I gently soothed my little one before setting off on the familiar dirt path leading into the forest. The winding trail, shaded by rows of green trees on both sides, occasionally echoed with birdsong and was accompanied by a refreshing breeze, making me feel more at ease. In the distance, tall papaya trees with lush green foliage came into view. Clusters of golden ripe fruit sparkled under the sunlight as if waiting for me to harvest them. Quickening my steps, I felt eager knowing that today's harvest would bring fresh produce to sell at the market. Placing my child in a shaded spot, I carefully climbed up a tree, swiftly reaching for the plump papayas. With a sharp knife, I made precise cuts, letting each papaya fall gently into my hands before placing it in the basket to avoid bruising. Sweat began to bead on my forehead, but I didn't feel tired. Each harvest felt like contributing something sweet and fresh to those who would buy them. After working for a while, I paused to rest and took out a ripe papaya from the basket. As soon as the knife sliced through its soft skin, a sweet aroma filled the air. I scooped out a piece and brought it to my mouth. Its refreshing sweetness seemed to wash away all my fatigue. While eating, I gazed into the distance at the swaying green treetops and soaked in the peaceful and pure atmosphere of the forest. At that moment, nature's beauty made me forget life's daily worries, leaving only a sense of calm and gratitude. Once my basket was full, I secured it tightly and carefully carried it down to the roadside to set up for selling as usual. Upon arrival, I spread out a small cloth and neatly arranged each papaya to make them more appealing. The golden ripe fruits glowed brilliantly under the afternoon sun, catching the attention of passers-by. Sitting down, I gently fanned my child as they slept and occasionally smiled to greet potential customers. Before long, a few people stopped by to browse and chose some of the finest papayas. After tasting them, they praised their freshness and sweetness. Their kind words warmed my heart and gave me more motivation to continue this work. While busy selling, a middle-aged man passed by and stopped upon seeing me at my small stall. He picked out several papayas and cheerfully chatted with me, asking about how I grew and cared for them. Hearing about my hard days tending to the garden, he didn't hesitate to recommend my produce to his friends. Thanks to his help, more than half of my stock was sold in no time. The remaining papayas were quickly bought before nightfall. As the sun dipped behind the mountains, I packed up my belongings with a heart full of joy from a successful day's work. Though life remains challenging, through relentless effort and support from others, I always feel optimistic and hopeful for brighter days ahead. After selling all the papayas in the afternoon, I cheerfully walked along the familiar dirt path back to my small hut. My heart felt light and full of joy as I softly sang familiar tunes. The sunset painted the sky red, and the last rays of sunlight filtered through the trees, creating a peaceful scene. The sound of forest birds calling each other back to their nests added warmth to the atmosphere. Halfway home, I suddenly noticed a baby curled up by the roadside. The child was wrapped in an old blanket, their small, thin face resting peacefully with closed eyes as if sleeping. Beside them lay a worn piece of paper with a few lines describing their heartbreaking situation. I picked up the paper and read it. Each word felt like a knife cutting into my heart. Tears streamed down my face as I learned that this baby had been abandoned because their family could no longer afford to care for them. I lifted the baby into my arms, feeling their frail and delicate body against mine. Looking at their innocent face, untouched by guilt, my heart overflowed with compassion. Unable to leave the child in this desolate place, I decided to go door to door in the area to ask if anyone would be willing to take them in. Knocking on each door, I shared the baby's story, hoping to find a kind soul who could give them a home. However, everyone shook their heads and declined due to their own difficult circumstances. Despite this, I did not give up and continued searching. My steps grew heavier as night fell and my fragile hope began to fade. Finally, just as the last light of day lingered on the horizon, a kind-hearted middle-aged woman agreed to take in the baby after reading the note and hearing their story from me. She burst into tears upon seeing the child and promised she would care for them as her own. A wave of relief and emotion washed over me as I saw that the baby had found a new home. Before leaving, I hugged the child one last time and silently wished them a better life ahead. The woman gently cradled the baby in her arms, her eyes shining with love and determination to care for this little life. I stood there watching as they disappeared behind the door of her humble home, my heart swelling with indescribable happiness. On my way back to my hut, my emotions were a mix of joy and deep reflection. I felt more strongly than ever about the value of human kindness amidst life's hardships. Each step on the dirt path felt lighter as I thought about having done something meaningful today. As I walked, holding my own child close to me, I silently vowed that despite life's challenges, love and sharing can overcome any difficulty. Even the fading rays of sunlight seemed gentler, as if they empathized with the story I had just experienced. When I reached my small hut by the stream, I placed my child on their bed and sat quietly, reflecting on everything that had happened today. The image of the abandoned baby and the loving gaze of that kind woman lingered in my mind endlessly. That evening came to a close with peace but also deep thoughts about life. I promised myself that each day is an opportunity to learn how to love more and spread goodness to those around me.